Dopamine, the chemical that calls you for self-destructions, that makes you spend hours on social media, TikTok, Instagram. But what if we can use it to get hyper-focused? And what if we can use this as a number one tool to achieve every single thing we want in our life? And this is what I'm gonna show you in this video. If you're new to my channel, my name is Cosimo. I'm a brain rewiring expert and I've helped over 80,000 people worldwide to rewire their brain so they can manifest faster to achieve their goals in their life. By using the same strategies, I was able to create a successful business, and I was able also to partner with Tony Robbins and Ingraziosi's mastermind.com. I wrote 2 books, I did a TED Talk, and guys, I can't wait to share with you in this YouTube channel so many ways to get your brain on the direction you want to go and achieve anything you want in your life. What inspired me to do this video is that years ago, I had a very high pressure moment in my business. There were so many things that I was doing that I was not supposed to do by myself, but having a team to do it with me, it was very hard for me to delegate, to get focused, and every time I was feeling that pressure, I felt like I needed a way out, and so my hand was reaching my phone automatically without even thinking. And finally I found myself on a phone looking at notification, emails, and I didn't even remember why I took my phone to do that. So I noticed how overstimulated I was by catching my phone every time or watching notifications or all of that, and needed a way to use this willing and motivation I had to actually get through that pressure. And I found a way. I found 3 shifts that really shifted the way I was working that I'm gonna share with you in this video. Now, I'm gonna ask you a question. This question will make you clarity on how injected of dopamine your brain is, so you know exactly where to start. And I'm gonna share this question with you in the middle of this video when it will most make sense. So follow me until the end of the video, because by the end of this video, you're not gonna only understand how to do this, but how you're gonna feel how to do this. And before we talk about the 3 shifts, I wanna tell you what dopamine really is, because most people think that dopamine is a pleasure chemical. Well, it's not totally wrong, but it's incomplete. Dopamine is a chemical that makes you focus, that makes your brain want more. It's a brain way of saying, this is important, this matters, I want more. It's a focusing mechanism, it's a reward mechanism. It makes your brain locked in to wanting more. Now, but what if you can use this at your own advantage without using social media? Because actually phones are designed to hijack you with high dopamine, so you stay more than you actually thought to stay. Let's say you took your phone and say, I want to stay here 5 minutes watching those videos, but then you realize you're staying half hour. Why is that? Because you get in a flow state thanks to dopamine, and your brain wants more. It doesn't want you to get out of that. So I realized that as I had the phone in my head, I was hijacked by dopamine and I was overly stimulated so to stay attached to my phone. And what happens when you get hijacked? What happens when you get notifications and you're giving all those hikes of dopamine? Then your brain gets desensitized to dopamine. In other words, think about going to a bakery and every single day of your life, you like the smell of the bread. It's unbelievable when you get in the bakery. Just imagine it. I really love the smell. And so now you go every day. After you go every day for 6 months, would you still feel the same pleasure, or would you still feel the same smell? The answer is no. You get desensitized by the smell, unless they cook something different and you smell maybe cake or some desserts they are doing. Well, because your brain needs another stimulus to understand what's going on around it, because the smell of the bread is not enough anymore to give you that pleasure. The same with your phone. In the beginning, you're scrolling, you're seeing the things, and then in the beginning, you're doing notifications, answering emails, blah, blah, you're opening and closing different apps, and that hijacks your brain. At some point, your brain wants more. But that more increases just the level of dopamine, and your brain becomes desensitized to dopamine. So now you have to find something higher to hijack your brain, and this game never finishes. So here's the problem. Now you have to go back to work. You have a spreadsheet in front of you, you have deep work to do, you have to plan your day, you have to plan your business, you have to do things that require you to lock in. And guess what happens? You're not receiving the same stimulation, and that makes you fall from grace, makes you fall to distractions, makes you feel in a wandering mode. It's not your fault. It's not that you are weak. That's what I thought in my story. I thought that I was weak. I was not enough disciplined to train myself to not to do that. But I discovered I wasn't weak. I just trained my brain to do that. So we have to resensitize your brain. I'm going to tell you the shifts you have to do that. Here first is the question that I promised you to ask you in the middle of this video. A question I want you to answer honestly. What was the last time you were in line, you were in the bathroom, you were waiting in the elevator, you were waiting in the restaurant for a friend, that you didn't reach your phone? That you said, I'm gonna sit still, no phone, no music, no entertainment, and just enjoying the stillness, the silence of that, the noise around you instead of being engaged with the phone. If you cannot remember that, describes you exactly what addiction you created to your phone. And your phone is engineered to create that addiction. Listen, the phone is engineered to give you every 3 seconds dopamine, while working and deep work gives you high spikes of dopamine every 3 hours. That's an unfair fight because your brain 100% will prefer to go on the phone than working deep, than enjoying stillness, than be present. That's why the 3 shifts I'm gonna give you are gonna be super awesome for you to use because you're gonna see really the difference of your brain working in hyperfocus by using dopamine, by using what your brain actually can produce by itself. So let's understand how to do this. So the first shift you have to do is this one. Take boring breaks. Here is everybody's mistake. Every time they have a break, they reward themselves with their phone. And it feels deserved, it feels good, but what will happen when you're gonna go back to work? Is your brain now ready to jump on a spreadsheet? Yes, I can't wait to analyze the spreadsheet, to do my deep work. Or is craving more stimulation, like you give it to it during the break? Of course, the second one. So your brain is gonna feel that you need to keep going, and here's what happens. What happens is you have to take your break. They are way more boring, way less exciting than working. So your brain craves to go back on it. What you're doing to your brain is like eating a big cake and then wanting to work later on eating a salad. Your taste bugs actually just got confused. You don't know. Now, I mean, the salad may be great to enjoy, but you just got a big cake. How willing are you to eat now the salad and enjoy it? So the same with your brain. Get the breaks less empowering, less exciting, more boring. You know what you can do? You can walk, you can stretch, you can do a foam roll. You can actually stare at the wall. If you can't do any of those things, just stare at the wall. Staring at the wall is very, very boring. You do it for 5 minutes. Of course, you're not gonna do that for hours, but it's way better than spending 30 minutes on Instagram and actually promising yourself you're gonna stay only 5 minutes, but you're gonna stay 30. And now you're wasting 25 minutes of your time that never will come back. So it's important that you start taking boring breaks, and therefore, if your brain is craving now dopamine, it's starving dopamine, now how hungry it will be when you're gonna go back to work. So you have to starve your brain to make it crave work. By staring at your wall, you're making your brain very bored. I can guarantee you. Just listen to this. You're gonna think, this is so boring. In fact, boredom is not the enemy of focus. Boredom is the doorway to focus. Because your brain can't wait to be engaged again, to do something useful. The second shift, it's something that people do it and they kill their brain silently and they don't even know and realize it how. And so the second shift is this. Inhabit the in-between. When was the last time you were in line without reaching your phone? When was the last time you were at the restaurant waiting for a friend without reaching your phone? When was the last time you were in an elevator without thinking, I'm gonna reach my phone, even if you didn't need it, just to that urge of feeling engaged? Well, I know that it was last time because I did it too. Because everybody does. You notice when everybody's in a silent place, you notice that everybody's on their phone. And they all look busy. But what are they doing? They're keeping their brain engaged with dopamine. Now, you have to understand our brain is two different networks. A default network and a task positive network. A default network is what I call the wandering zone, in which you're not really focusing on something specific, you're focusing on anything. Okay? The task positive network is something that turns on when you're totally locked into something to finish. So you're deep focusing on something. Now, our brain switches between the default network mode to a task positive network depending on what we are doing. But many people using their phone, checking in the emails while they're listening to the music, or like eating while they're texting, or reading a book while they're listening to something else, so all of this multitasking makes your brain stuck into always default network because you're not really focusing on one thing, you're focusing on multiple things. And for your brain that is wandering, for your brain that is many things at the same time, as I told you, the default network turns on when you're focusing not on something specific, one thing, but on many things at the same time. Now what happens that when you want to switch to the task positive network, it becomes very hard for your brain to switch that way because it's not used to be in task positive network, but always in wandering mode. So how do we train this switch? By doing one thing at a time. One thing at a time makes your brain switching immediately from one to the other one. And here's a funny story. I trained my brain to do that because I noticed that the most important thing we have in our life is our attention. And where goes my attention, my money goes, my life goes, my time goes. And my team always makes fun of me because when I have those team meetings and we have new recruits or new people working with us, they notice that during the agenda at some point there is something I have to personally do. And so it maybe requires 2 or 3 minutes. So you know what happens? I actually do it in that moment and I say, guys, you keep talking, I just want to finish this that you just told me because I hate procrastinating it. And so one day a guy said to the others, I'm going to ask Cosimo some questions now. He tried to ask me questions and I couldn't hear him because I was totally in my task positive network. I was in deep work. And here's what happens. He said, how does he do that? How can he not listen to anything around himself? And well, other people, of course, they have been trained by me. They can do the same thing and they say, wait, because you're going to be trained too. And once your brain can switch that way, you're not anymore like scattered and trying all the time to get into deep focus, but what happens is you will have flow at will. And this will change your life because one of the most valuable cognitive skills is attention, is getting your attention to something and finish something. And here we go to the third important shift. Number 3, your new friend will be silence. Going back to what I was saying before, when I asked you the question, do you remember when there was the last time you were just still, no music, no podcast, no engagement, and you were just enjoying the around yourself? Sometimes we don't even remember that, but here's the point. We don't even remember because we feel the urge of grabbing our phone because we want to feel engaged. You remember that? Well, here's the problem that happens with our brain. That every time we feel the silence with something like the phone, our brain creates an association that silence is dangerous, that silence needs to be filled up. And so every time you're silent, your brain feels like I have to be engaged with something. And this happens not only when you are doing nothing, like in a line or in a restaurant, but also when you're trying to deep focus on your work. In that moment, your brain is going to suggest you, why don't you check on the notification? Why don't you look at that right now? Just a quick look. Maybe someone already texted you, or maybe someone already emailed you about this. So here's the point. In that moment, the urge of taking that phone will be stronger than your will to stay on a task because the task is not going to give you any spikes of dopamine, but checking your phone and your notification, it will. So that's why you're gonna fall from grace. And here is my suggestion to you. To retrain your brain, next time you have silence, just have silence and feel good about it. Maybe recall some good memories about yourself. Maybe recall something that makes you grateful about something. Maybe ask yourself for a better focus after those 3 minutes that you're taking off. And it's gonna happen something important. Your brain now, every time you have silence, it's craving more love, it's craving more gratitude, it's craving more attention, it's craving more motivation, it's craving to be engaged with something that's not your phone. And the magic starts happening because, going back to my story to explain to you how that worked, it was a very high stressful moment. Many things were falling apart and many opportunities were coming. I really didn't know how to really handle that thing. I still remember that, and what happened was that those 3 shifts really saved me, because the moment I was reaching my phone, I know I was getting out of the situation, and I said no. I actually stood up and went for a walk. And during that walk, I had no phone, no headphones, no podcast, no nothing, just looking around under the sun or whatever it was that day. Of course, if it was raining, I was doing something else, like working out. But I did it every time I had the urge to reach my phone. What happened was that every time I was standing up and going for a walk. But then what happened was I started understanding myself in the silence. I started enjoying people around me. And guess what happened? In other situations in which I was in my phone, in the elevator, or at the gym, or in the line, people start talking to me because they didn't have a phone, and I start meeting interesting people. People that wanted to be engaged with you. Genuine connections. And then you know what happened? The third shift, in which the silence was my favorite thing to do, transformed that in a meditation. And I start meditating, and in that moment I realized how my stress levels were going down. And in that moment I got clarity of what I really needed to do. In those silent moments, I received my message. I received the inspiration I needed to go ahead and thrive through all the challenges I was having in that moment. So, here's my final question to you. Do you want to have a scattered brain, a brain that doesn't receive any messages, that doesn't receive any inspiration, that is unhealthy, or a brain that produces, that receives inspiration, but most of all, that's serving you towards the direction you want to go? And comment below what you really think. What was your experience? What was the most stressful experience? And how did that affect you and affect your use of your phone, or the use of your work, or the use of dopamine in your life? And now you know how to retrain your brain to get the most of dopamine in your life. And see you in the next video.